today's session, which is Joygraphy. Joygraphy, when I heard the name, it was very, very interesting for me, let me tell you. As the name is interesting, same is the kind of work which the organization is doing. The kind of work which this company has done, I'm really amazed to see. And I was talking to Abhijit in the morning, and it is very, very close to personally for me. And well-being, when we talk about in today's times, post-pandemic, during pandemic, this is a very apt message and apt topic for the discussion, because apparently we all look okay, but when we go deep within, we try and find out that what is best we can do for ourselves and for the people around us. So with that, I welcome Abhijit and Mr. Vishal to this session, and to tell you a little bit about the organization. Joygraphy actually is a well-tech company. This word I have heard for the first time. Well-tech company means wellness and technology synchronizing together, which can do wonders for the humanity. Abhijit Dabade, the co-founder and CEO, the first speaker of today's session, is actually a passionate about education and social causes that bring positive changes in an individual's life, which has drawn him to turn around institutions by making them impactful and not just profitable over the last 20 years. He's an innovator and pathfinder and has made notable contributions in fields as diverse as EdTech, skill assessment, sports management, and K-12. Just to tell you more about him, his focus has always been on driving high social change through education and lately well-being technologies. He has worked in leadership capacities with Indian and multinational organizations. As regional manager and international leader in educational assessment, he successfully developed the largest team of partners in the entire South Asia region while delivering robust growth. He played a major role in development of India's first sports management degree program, where none existed in the country earlier, creating several national level assessment tools for aspiring students and working professionals for career in sports management. And his video-based talks on the topic rank among the top 5 in the field. Abhijit developed innovative education initiatives to bring international practices in rural Maharashtra, benefiting hundreds of children in the state. Among other notable milestones are his design and delivery of assessment tools for a blended learning Nordics-based company that has recently been acquired by one of the largest investor funds in Northern Europe. He was recently awarded Young CEO of the Year 2019 by American College of Dubai. As part of his social impact endeavors, he is official spokesperson for India for the International Wellbeing Economic Alliance. In the past, he has also served on the task force groups and education committees of CII and Bombay University. Abhijit did his graduation from Ferguson College, Pune, and then went on to do double post-graduation in mass media, University of Pune, and marketing management from Track Training International, UK, and hold certifications in emotional intelligence, counseling, and well-being science by Yale University. Welcome, Mr. Abhijit, to the program.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Second speaker for today, Dr. Vishal Gule, is the co-founder and CRO of Joygraphy. He is a leading research scholar in the area of psychometric tool development, known for ability to design and develop human behavioral assessments and analytical tools with unique insights. Over the past 18 years, he has developed over 300 plus tools that have contributed in the area of well-being, policy reforms, gender neutrality, and friendliness, school student career planning and development, parenting, skill identification, and interventional strategies successfully for organizations and impacting more than 20,000 people in private and public sector in his career so far. Wow. He has been associated with different private and public agencies as an expert psychologist. For example, in Maharashtra Police, University of Pune, Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune, Municipal Corporation of Maharashtra State Prison Department, Ministry of Child and Women Welfare, and in the area of employee engagement, in pre-recruitment, behavioral and stress management areas, Vishal did some notable work in Mahindra and Mahindra, Maruti Suzuki, Pune City Connect, Sakal Media Group, Haldias Chemicals, and CLR Skills. Vishal has also been associated as master trainer and facilitator with global leader in assessments, Pearson Clinical and Talents Assessment. Dr. Vishal is also a practicing existential psychotherapist. 2,000 plus working professionals are benefited from his practice so far. He has completed 14,000 plus career counseling sessions in 18 years of his practice. Numerous seminars and lectures on career counseling, psychometry, existential psychotherapy, with several research and white papers published to his credit in national and international journals in the area of psychometry, positive psychology, health psychology, counseling as a scientific tool for youth development and well-being, adult and adolescent mental health and statistical modeling for psychometric tools. Hundreds of students continue to benefit from his passion to mentor them to develop psychology professionals who contribute in positive development of the society. Wonderful work done by you, Dr. Vishal, and we welcome you to this program. We are really honored to have such eminent speakers to our program, and I'm sure our participants will be immensely benefited by your deliberations. Over to you, Abhijit.
Rajesh Sharma ji, thank you so much for a very elaborate introduction of myself and Vishal. Really made us sound eminent. We may not be as eminent. However, really thank you for that elaborate introduction to us. But yes, our work definitely is elaborate, which we would like to talk about. Furthermore, I must also take this opportunity to thank the Bombay Management Association, as well as Dr. Kavita Laghate, because when she heard with me in a public gathering a few days ago, we had a quick interaction and she said, Abhijit, I think we should come over and talk about your work. So thank you so much, ma'am, for giving this opportunity to us to come and present our work today, this Friday evening. Basically, the story of Joygraphy started with my experiences from the education sector. And what I realized that probably one of the critical lessons learned throughout these 20 odd years was that most of us, or many of us, tend to follow something called as a conventional choice system of thinking. And this conventional choice system of thinking, this fundamental choice of system of thinking fundamentally was that we tend to live by external standards. If you look at our choices of career, our choices of life, our choices of relationships, our choices of finally success and the definition of success, it is based on external standards. Ideally, it should be based on internal standards. And this continuous experience in the education sector while building numerous solutions here in India and abroad, this simple yet complex observation of life inspired that something needs to be done in this area. And therefore, I called my friend Vishal, and now who's my co-founder, that, you know, we need to do something about this. And he, being already in the area, was super excited and said, yes, Abhijit, I think we should do something. We started going a layer deeper, and we realized that life is intertwined. Howsoever, we may try to live 9 to 5 and 5 to 9 separately, but you would realize that you cannot separate it physically as well as psychologically. Physically, COVID has finally broken the boundaries. At least it was to some extent separate, but now, 9 to 5 and 5 to 9 has become a combined thing. And therefore, this whole intertwined nature of you wanting to perhaps compartmentalize your professional life, your personal life, complications of careers, etc. No, you can't. And that's where we thought that probably it is important that we understand this intertwined nature of life further. And hence, this is where exactly we started going deeper and identified that there are 6 fundamental areas where our life is interconnected, interrelated. Which are those 6 fundamental areas? Starting with our job, our workplace. Second, our career, which is more long term. Third, our relationships, which are professional as well as personal. Our physical self, our personal or emotional self, and what lies at the core of all our existence is our value system. Now, having identified these 6 areas of life where they are interconnected, interrelated, and therefore we need to evolve perhaps solutions around these 6 areas. With that in mind, we said, okay, but you would always wonder that, why do we talk about well-being now? And let me tell you, and I was talking to about 5 minutes ago before the session, I was talking to Rajesh ji, and I told him that while COVID pushed and made the word well-being a buzzword perhaps, or one of the most searched words on Google today, but it is much, much before COVID. The WHO predicted a global burnout pandemic in 2019 for the coming decade. That means perhaps we are today living in 2 pandemics and not 1 pandemic. COVID, of course, and then there is an ongoing pandemic of the burnout. Now, and I'm only talking here about, workplace well-being. Just to quickly cite one figure, the World Economic Forum says that the cost of burnout, the economic cost of burnout is about $322 billion on a yearly basis. Now, why is this happening? It is perhaps because there is some history or background to it. I mean, in our observation, if you look at how we have evolved, particularly on the work front, from an industrial age to today information age, the industrial age to information age has been focusing on definition of productivity or results, or even at a larger country level, probably at GDP level, as a combination of time plus skills. So when you give more time at an individual or organizational level, add it with the skills, you are obviously likely to get improved, greater, better results in terms of productivity. However, what are the consequences? The consequences of giving more time here is also leading slowly to frustration, resentment, stress, burnout, anxiety, depression, in an increasing order of complexity. So the point here is that we might be in the age of Bitcoin as a new currency and data as a new fuel in Industry 4, as every corporate leader puts it. However, let's not forget that at the center of this is either a overworked human or a unemployed or an endangered. That endangered term is more dramatically used. What we are talking about, a redundant employee or a redundant human, because technology is also increasing redundance of certain job roles, and we are all aware of that. That how these dynamics are changing very fast, and how the gig economy is also adding to different roles, the parallel growth in organizations, the way horizontal hierarchy is increasing against vertical hierarchy. All this is very well known now, and therefore there's also a distressed human. And that is the reason, all the more, perhaps we should now talk about well-being as one of the important aspects while we are discussing growth in terms of especially economy at an organizational level. And therefore the whole idea is, and that is the reason we thought that we would like to work in this area and bring about something that people today are slowly talking, are at individual level perhaps coming ahead and discussing it, but largely is not very openly spoken about at an organizational level. And it is not only all the time about the stress, anxiety, depression. Well-being, I must also put here that well-being is not only about stress, anxiety, depression. In fact, let me tell you something. Well-being it's sometimes been misconstrued as only what I said about anxiety or stress or depression or mental. In fact, uh, there are three terms when you're talking about health. Absence of illness, we say that it is positive health. When we talk about improving or working or improving on our lifestyle, okay, that's fundamentally wellness. But when we talk about health, improvement of lifestyle, overall personal and social stability, then we are talking about holistic, which is what is well-being. And that's the difference perhaps between health, wellness, and well-being. Unfortunately, these terms are interchangeably used, and hence the role that well-being overall plays, we feel, is no longer optional, but in terms of individual and organizational growth, it is now essential. And therefore, the rise of well-being as an era. Having said that, let me quickly take you through how did we therefore go about developing Joygraphy, and how did we go about our research. Those six fundamental areas having identified, we started mapping and measuring 174 human behavior traits across these six well-being areas. And these 174 human behavior traits were further divided into sub-dimensions, or something that gives us insight into thinking, feeling, behavior, emotions. And that is something that makes our research different, stands out. And then we embarked over the last 2.5 years, we embarked on finding the elements into details by meeting people, administering our questionnaires, by interacting with them. And then finally, we had in India, Asia, and in some cases, even in Western countries, some data from there, we analyzed close to 250,000 data to arrive at unique insights in these six areas of well-being that we mentioned to you. So each of our report offers unique insights. It is automated, technology driven, GDPR compliant, and it offers an individual dashboard, or it also offers an organization its own dashboard and analytics. Depending on the organization's objective, we can run the tools, offer the analysis so that they can help. We can play a catalytic role. We can help you in your HR initiatives, or in physical well-being initiatives of the employees, or cultural initiatives, or change management initiatives, eh, depending on the objective or issues or challenge at hand in your organization. Of course, these tool, another differentiator is that these tools are customizable. This is so what I'm talking about is, let's say for example, there are two factors that you take from personal well-being and one factor from relationship well-being, and you ask us that can you combine and make a new or a different assessment for us. It's possible. The way we have designed the system, we can customize it. In fact, we can even customize it for external stakeholders. If you feel that there are certain aspects of customer or consumer psychology you want to understand from a well-being perspective, to have better marketing communication, to have better product design, then even the tool can be customized for those purposes. And that's how we went about doing this. And you can always visit the website. Some of you, I am glad that we had invited for the a free emotional well-being assessment. As part of the webinar, we opened up and made the assessment available, and I'm happy we received more than about 70 people participating in it. And uh, some light of it would be thrown by Vishal about how you can look into your own emotional well-being results or interpretation as such. Happy to also share with you that we are internationally affiliated with the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. 2 years back, you would have heard of New Zealand presenting the world's first happiness budget. That's part of the initiatives that is part of well-being governments. Wellbeing Economy Alliance was actually or has been instrumental in forming a new force, emerging force called Wellbeing Governments. We are members of that, and then there we are also at individual organization level members of the American Psychological Association, standard global norms of American Psychological Association, and of course the ITC and SIOP given on the screen. So with this, I'm sure you have got an idea of why we started Joygraphy, how we went about starting Joygraphy, and what kind of contribution we can make at individual and organizational level. I'm going to invite Vishal straight away to get into the topic of today's discussion and something that we wanted to pass to you on integrating individual and organizational well-being. Vishal, over to you.
Thank you, Abhijit. And because we planned a lot for today's session, and there is a lot of things that we wanted to share with all of you. Since we are talking about well-being, there are certain things that before explaining how Joygraphy can help, how Joygraphy can help you to understand the well-being, I want to give some certain statistics, some current status on the issue. So these reports are from last 2 years only. All the statistics that we have received, it's from reports that are published globally in last 2 years. Almost more than 65% of the working population, they are suffering from work-life balance. We are going to talk more about work-life balance, but 65% is huge number, alarming number. So it's like out of 10, 7 people are suffering from work-life balance. 44% of them are suffering from stress of work culture. 43 from suffering from burnout, as Abhijit also referred it. 43% are suffering from burnout, and these are the people who have reported that they are suffering from these kind of issues. We can just imagine the number of people who are going through it, but just out of fear of losing a job, or out of fear of they can be labeled, they must have not came forward. Since 43% is again a huge and alarming number. The next statistic that we got is again quite alarming, profoundly alarming rather. Willing to leave job due to lack of appreciation. Appreciation is one of the need that motivate us to do what we do for living. So it's not only about satisfying our basic needs. It's about satisfying those psychological needs, and appreciation is one of that need. And that is why we can see the 95% of them are currently working. They are even ready to shift their job or even to leave the job they are currently doing, because the major reason, there are n number of reasons, but the major reason is lack of appreciation. And that is why well-being has become a concept which is essential. It's not just something that is value addition. It's something which is essential. And as referred by WHO, that it's a pandemic. It's a pandemic of burnout. So we are going through two pandemics. The further numbers are again, this one is by Microsoft. This their 2021 survey explained that more than 41% of the employees globally are considering resignation, are considering to resign and shift to the new job. It's like a revolution. It's like a revolution where people are just not only focusing on earning money from the job. It is something else that they are looking for, and that something else is making them rethink what they are doing currently and what they want to do in life. And that is why this kind of number, where 41% of them are considering a career shift. We know we most of us are belong from HR background, from behavioral science background, management background, and we know the cost of employee turnover, the cost of hiring a person, and the cost of sustaining him. And when that person leaves, the kind of cost is responsible for the organization has to bear. So these numbers are quite alarming. And since in my personal practice, I came across different cases, different clients who are going through these issues in their workplace. I would like to share one incident, one of my clients' story with you. Obviously, the details will remain anonymous. But 15 days back, this particular client approached me, and he's a senior manager at in a IT firm, one of the founding member of the organization. Now, this founding member, they were doing well. Again, pandemic, we got a bad hit. All of us, we got the hit of the pandemic. Similarly, they went through their share of issues and their share of financial crunch because of the pandemic. Now they are again back to the job. Now this particular fellow, this particular person, he is one of the member who spent 12 to 16 hours every day to build the company. One of the founding member. Develop very strong and healthy relation within the organization, within the management, with management also. Enjoyed healthy relation with them. Now, since the organization is going through certain financial deficit, the backlog is huge. Now everybody is under pressure. He himself, now he has developed, because of this pressure and because of getting different sort of everyday different sort of communication pattern from management, he started developing the fear of losing the job. Imagine somebody who had spent more than 6 years and more than 12 to 16 hours per day in a job. It's become that job doesn't remain job. It's become a life of a person. When he approached me, he said, "Sir, if I'm going to leave the job, I'm going to just start a supermarket. I'm going to start a supermarket. I'm not going to remain an engineer anymore because I cannot just face it." He had certain attacks of certain panic attack. The insecurities was there. There was certain lot of fear of losing the job, and more than job, the kind of relation he had with the co-worker. And this all took him to start the self-blame. He, and this entire guilt and the entire insecurity, fear, this everything boiled down to displacement with his family. Displacement is a term in psychology, which we just displace our anger, which is unconscious, our guilt, which is unconscious, to someone else. And that someone else is a spouse, is parents, it's children, can be anyone. And this leads to, again, having very unhealthy communication pattern in the family, distance with the spouse. And and with this, there's a lot of health issues again. He put on a lot of weight. Because of that weight, there are other issues like thyroid, the hypertension. These kind of issues started. Sleepless nights become regular, and this entire work-life balance ended up having distance with the spouse. And then he realized he needs help. When he approached me, we discussed the whole thing. Why I started with this particular case, this is not one example. There are many people. There are many people here right now, and there are many we know. We have experienced this, that we are going through this. That is why this is a pandemic. We all are going through this, and that is why these kind of numbers are there. And this statistic is quite alarming. And therefore, I want to share certain current scenario which now in entire world, the globe is basically looking at it as something like we need to now start talking about it. That is why rethink the growth. We need to rethink now whether the growth that we are saying that it is a growth, whether it is really a growth or it's really a progress. This growth is insufficient. This growth is not, because wealth has become an increasingly adequate indicator. Why it has become increasingly inadequate indicator? Because David Cameron, for example, in his recent speech, he said that GDP used to be an indicator of how a nation is doing, whether the nation is doing well or not. Now it's not GDP, it's GWB. GWB is general well-being. General well-being, how strong, healthy relations we experience, and how, as a society, how we are living our life. And this is what now entire world is now talking about, is now started thinking about it. As Abhijit said, New Zealand has presented a first budget which has well-being as a center. So now the entire nations are now talking about it. Our own Nobelist Amartya Sen has done very good work in the area of behavioral economics. Now, behavioral economics focuses on well-being a lot. Well-being, because it's not only about being happy, or it's not only about being wealthy. It's about able to function well. It's about able to explore all your human capacities. So Amartya Sen basically conceptualized a healthy society, a healthy human being, as a human being who has all the functionality possible, and he called it as a substantive freedom. The freedom that we are experiencing is not freedom, because the abilities that we have, we don't have opportunities to explore those abilities, explore those capabilities, unless we have that opportunity. Now, how that opportunity will be created? That opportunity will be created by exploring the policies and practices to provide certain scope. And that can only possible by understanding what factors brings well-being. It's not only a psychological term, it's not only from a psychological perspective, but it is from a perspective of economics, it's perspective of objective psychology, objective well-being, and a subjective perspective. So Joygraphy has done that work to combine the objective elements of Joygraphy, or objective elements of well-being from the perspective of economics, so social life, the subjective aspect of well-being from the elements of psychology and how we feel, typically what we call happiness, and the real concept of well-being from the psychological perspective. So combination of these three, and Amartya Sen's work was a guiding work for us to combine these three aspects and get a model that Abhijit just explained about Joygraphy. I'm very happy to see this news yesterday. It's yesterday's news. It is there in the Hindu, the career edition, and title says that top 100 companies. It is yesterday's news only. The top 100 companies, they got selected. The criteria of getting score in the top 100 companies was one of the biggest criteria, or the criteria that has given most of the scores was mental well-being activities. So what kind of mental well-being activities? And this is in India, and I'm sure all of us, this is very soothing sort of news where we can see that now corporate is taking their bit and started thinking about it from the perspective of well-being, where this particular initiative got most of the score. The company got most of the score who has given the novel and a new initiative of mental well-being, and it included till now, best of my knowledge, the KPIs and key result areas, key performance indicator and key result areas was more on production and profit and sales perspective. And we all of us, we are well aware that the key performance indicator, like how much business you got or how much money you have saved. Now this is surprising and very good to see that diversity, equity, and inclusion has become the KRA, has become the KPI of a personal manager, because people realize that the indirect cost of not looking at well-being is very high than the direct cost that we are saving by not dealing with the well-being issues. And this is a sign of it. Now, since we are talking about well-being, there are certain myths and facts about well-being. Most of us, in last 5 decades, it's been the requirement of society and of nation, corporates, industry, of that people should be techno savvy. People should be, there should be a lot of people should learn computers. I remember around 30 years back, there was a strike by bank officials and government officials that they'll be not using computers. They are happy with the typewriters. Now, when today, I just, when this kind of flashback, I go in the memory lane and I realize that how can people even imagine without a computer, life without a computer, without a technology. And there was a time people did protest against it. People went on a strike that they'll be not using the computers. And we can just laugh at it now when we think of that kind of incidents. Similarly, in last few years, happiness has become trained. Happiness and positivity has become trained in social media and in certain practices. Now, I would like to clear this myth that happiness is not well-being. Happiness is something which is subjective, which is fragile, because for me, happiness is something else. For you, happiness is something else. Happiness for a criminal is something else, and happiness for a lawyer is something else. Happiness for a patient is something else, and happiness for a doctor, for a surgeon, is something else. We cannot generalize the term called happiness as well-being, because well-being is just living, just functioning well. Now, functioning well is something very, very big. So functioning has a lot of aspect, a lot of areas of life, which basically under the umbrella of well-being, which we have included in Joygraph. That is why we said that we have covered more than 250,000 data points, because well-being is not only happiness. Rather, happiness is what we call toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is, that people keep saying that think positive. Think positive. All the gurus and all the motivational speaker, listening them it feels good. But when you try to implement in your life, you feel that this is not something that is applicable. And that's why in psychology, we call it as a pseudo-psychology. Pseudo-psychology, where people feel that, they should be happy all the time. Rather, existential approach to psychology says that struggle, suffering, it's something that gives meaning to life. And that is why we should not, there are two approaches, fight or flight. So when we decide to fight, we approach to the issue, we suffer in that issue, we deal with that issue, and we become someone different, far more powerful, far more flourished as a person. And that's why suffering is rather in other way, suffering adds meaning to the life. The only thing is that we need to understand the meaning of the suffering. And that is what Joygraphy is all about. Joygraphy is all about giving the understanding, developing that understanding of a person that yes, all of us are suffering. Happiness is not something that we should behind. The more will behind of something, the more that thing will go away from us. So it's just about being in that journey, enjoying the journey, not running behind the destination. And that is why we want to clear this myth of happiness and toxic positivity. You cannot just be positive all the time. We need to accept that certain negative things are there in life. It's a part of life. We just need to learn to cope with it, accept it, cope with it. That is how it goes. One important that we are now, since we are India's, we may make this bold statement that Joygraphy is India's first well-tech company. Now, first well-tech company is because well-being is not mental health. Yes, mental health is there, but mental health, when we talk about mental health, it's there are many things in mental health. Around 1% of the population are suffering from, in India, around 1% of population suffering from severe mental health issues, like specifically like schizophrenia, where people are having illusions, delusions, hallucinations, and they need inpatient service like in hospital. What about people who are not, basically who are not suffering from these kind of severe mental issues, but they have their own problems and they don't know how to deal with it? And these problems are hampering their daily life, creating a lot of daily hassles. That is why well-being is the concept which basically work in the area of functioning of human being, and that functioning should be well in all the areas of life, which Joygraphy has covered. It's also about economy. The comparison between life satisfaction of US citizens and life satisfaction of Indian citizens, it's almost same. So in last 5 decades, the GDP has, especially in US, GDP has grown like anything. But life satisfaction and remains same, and it is even similar of Indian counterparts, Indian population. Why it is the so money is not the answer for everything. Having a lot of money, having a lot of, because people are now working on huge packages. So is it making them functioning well? Is it like the more the package, the more amount of work a person is doing? Is it like that? So we need to give a thought on it. Similarly, we talked about mental health issues, and they are they don't create problem in daily functioning if a proper treatment provided, if proper support provided. That is why the inclusivity at the workplace is something is very important. The cultural inclusivity, environmental inclusivity, and behavioral humanness of the inclusivity is very important. After these myths and facts, the concept of well-being, I'm sure, is It's very much clear, and there are certain myths which we wanted to clear. Now, since we are talking about individual and organization, we are integrating the individual and organizational well-being. I have this simple maths that I've been following in my life. As Indian, the average life expectancy is around 60 years. Now, almost 25 years. In my case, I have spent almost 30 years in education. So after spending 30 years of education, remaining 30 years that I have got, because life expectancy is 60 years, we never know. Death is the ultimate truth of life. And remaining 30 years, if we divide it into days, it's become around 11,000 days, the working days. I'm not counting the nights in it. I'm going to spend those 11,000 days into working. So that work become like my family. It's become something very significant part of my life. If that working life, that working environment, that working culture is not correct for me, I'm going to suffer the days that I have in my hand. And if you calculate in days, you'll realize that there are very few days remaining. The active days, as per the calculation, the active days that we have hardly around 7 to 8,000 days that we have in hand. Now, considering this, the work-life balance is something that is being hampering the entire workforce, and this work-life balance basically creating a lot of issues. When I'll share one of my clients' example. When this he's again a manager in very large MNC, and he has a 4-year-old boy. Whenever he goes goes back from work to home, he's very tired and very irritated. And the child, he used to come to him and used to ask like, "Daddy, are you tired?" And Daddy used to say, "Yes, beta, I'm very tired." Now this child got used to this. He got used to this. One day he came, he got up, the child got up and he went to the daddy's room and he asked him, "Good morning, Dadu, are you tired?" Imagine the childhood is being going in this perception that my daddy is always tired. And instead of because children learn from the observation, this work-life balance is one of the very big issues. We already saw the statistic for it. This time will never come back. The time that is there right now, it will never come back. When the children will grow up and you will look at them, you will see that I miss your childhood as a father. I could not enjoy the childhood of my child being with him because I was so busy. As I like this term, which Abhijit explained me one day, that he called these cities as EMI cities. The metro cities in India, they are EMI cities. You know why? Because everything is available to us. We got credit cards, we got EMIs, we can buy anything. So, and we do buy everything. Right from jewelry to foreign trips to gadgets, anything we can go and buy within a second, just a swipe away. But then those EMIs are there and we are living for those EMIs and we are missing the real happiness in the life. And that is why this work-life balance has become, and the work-life balance is one reason. Because of that, the guilt, the anger, the negativity, fear, the fear of losing, anxiety of EMIs, anxiety of not finding something good, anxiety at the workplace, the environmental issue, the bullying at the workplace, these kind of issues, it creates the burnout. The burnout is basically, the scientific definition of burnout is psychological, emotional, physical exhaustion. It's not only physical exhaustion. Last year, I guess a couple of years back, you must have saw the news that employee in Japan, he died on the street because he was so tired. He was just walking on the street and he died there. I guess on 28 years old. It's the point of burnout that person was experiencing. Then this burnout, it unconsciously, this whole thing, our mind and body they are connected. When everything boils down to your mind, whatever you are experiencing, whatever thoughts you have, whatever fears, anxiety, negativity, the competition, aggression, these things are there, they goes deep down to your mind, and then they are like, they work on the law of energy. The more you will push, the more it will come out, and it comes out in a different in a different manner. So the manner is, we heard about this Big Boss winner guy, some Shukla. I forgot his name. He died with a heart attack, and when he was in sleep. Now, I got some questions. I'll answer them once because I want to take this in a flow. He died with a heart attack, and very healthy, and the kind of lifestyle they follow, the kind of care they take for the body. Everything boils down to the mind, and then it comes on. We have incorporated this in Joygraphy, physical well-being. In the physical well-being assessment of Joygraphy, we are assessing people on their physical health, which, because of their other issues in their life, how their physical health is going to be affected. Physical health, where sleep issues, headache, gastrointestinal issues, respiratory issues, stress, how stress is creating issues in body. So there is a section called body's reactions to stress. How body is going to react to stress, and the kind of information we are getting, the kind of data, the kind of insight, intelligence this particular tool is giving, and for the application, for intervention, for counseling, it is creating. It's very good, and people who have used it are very happy with it. This mind-body mechanism again boils down to the relationship that I was talking about, the distance between the relationship, because we at one area of our work, there are a lot of things that is going against us, and then it is because of the displacement, because we cannot do anything at the workplace, so it goes to the other relationship. It is creating that distance, and we are going into that vicious cycle. In existential approach to psychology, they have called it as a vicious cycle. So we are, most of the people in the metro cities, we have stuck in this vicious cycle, and we are struggling to find a way to get out of it. That is why we thought, what intervention can be applicable to this. And for that intervention, these four common themes we thought will be very applicable. The first theme is in humanistic approach, in psychology. It has been considered that human beings are inherently good. We all are unique, special, and good in nature. We are not negatives, we are not passive, we are active in our life, and we are good people. And we want to work, we want to create something. Being human is creating some of your own legacy, and everybody is trying to create some legacy. And when you take the approach, you go into the organization. When that organization doesn't fit what you are having as values, as mission and the values and mission of the organization, when there is a contradiction between values and mission, then somewhere you try to find out your own way of fulfilling your values and mission. And for that, at certain extent, organizations are also responsible. Organization, we are going to see that how organization can take certain measures, small steps, small practices, and that can lead to very big difference in people, in employees' lives. Those are because people, we all work for material and money, as our, even that those areas are not, we are not going to ignore it. Materialistic success, also one of our psychological need. Nobody want to, I have seen, I'll not take name, but I'll see a lot of motivational speakers and sadhus. They have their own 25 lakhs two-wheelers. And the materialistic success that they are having is huge. So who's denying that money and materialistic success is not a part of well-being? But it's not the only part of well-being. We are also we are also working for that. But when that single factor becomes important, then other issues create mental health problems, because we do not only focus at work for money. We also need the recognition. We also need some social identity, and that social identity and recognition, because I'm going to spend 30 years of my life with the organization, with working, not necessarily with a single organization, but it is going to define at the evening of my life, it is going to define me, the person I am. When people, because everybody, as I said, it's our legacy, and that legacy is what you do. And that is why we identify with the organization. And this perspective is what we believe in Joygraphy, and that we have incorporated in workplace well-being from both the perspective, from individual perspective and from organizational perspective, and we have incorporated it. Psychological well-being, as I've already talked about it, that how the health issues, if we do not focus on psychological well-being, what all things may happen. The higher cardiovascular risk, risk is published research, not only in India, across the globe, that people who are not psychologically stable, now here I'm saying psychologically stable means not necessarily with the mental health issues. Maybe people who are suffering from more competitive environment, people who are running on every day, they have some of the other deadline to complete, every day some of the other things to achieve, and the life become very high speed and high pace life, and it whole thing goes to the cardiovascular risk. We have the diabetes, other sleep disturbance. One more major important aspect of psychological well-being, there are a lot of published research available, is that our body is basically there is a we call it as a biological feedback loop. Now this biological feedback loop is, when I encounter to a situation, that situation gives me certain it works as a certain stimulus. Now, because of that situation, a certain emotion and thought arises in my mind. Now, these emotions and thought directly linked with my body's immunological response, my body's neurological response, neuroendocrine response. Now, these endocrine regulations are basically hormones which are there in our body. There are certain neurotransmitter, these hormonal sort of substance in our brain. Now, these substance basically creates the fight and flight response, and this fight and flight response saves us from various viral infections, various basic health issues. And these are directly linked with our daily hassles, the amount of burnout we experience, the amount of work-life balance we experience. This is directly linked with it. So that's why people in their 30s are experiencing spondylosis. Last month I had a client who is he was saying that he's suffering from headache and some stomach issues. And being a psychologist, he came to me because all the doctors are saying that you are healthy, there's nothing to do with your stomach, and there's nothing wrong with your stomach, there's nothing wrong with your head or brain. They did all the scans, the MRI, the PET scan, and everything is done. He's healthy, but still he feels like, I'm suffering with something. And finally a doctor suggested him that you meet a psychologist, and that psychologist will only help you for this. And surprisingly, the client believes that there is something wrong with his intestine, and he was convincing me. Now this is because of the neurological changes in the neurotransmitter. There are certain neurotransmitter which are secreting the chemical which is not in balance. And research says it's directly linked with your lifestyle. I already talked about how psychological well-being and the basic cold, the viral cold is linked, especially in pandemic, in COVID. Even WHO has published the report that people who are psychologically stable, their coping is good, their well-being, they have achieved their well-being. Those have dealt with COVID very nicely, and they even their immune system had fought without any vaccination, has fought with the virus. So it's linked, and we cannot ignore this linkage. The kind of turnover, this statistic is from UK. Sadly, we don't have that kind of full-fledged research in our country, but the amount of money has cost because of absenteeism, because of employee turnover, because of non-productive behavior of employees. The numbers are alarming. There are some researches that were there even in India last year. The report of IT companies only from Bangalore reported that around $24,000 million productivity lost because of two reasons. One is mental health issues of IT employees, and other is relationship issues. So mental health and relationship issues. Third was addiction, was one of the issue. The paper is available online, published. So that kind of alarming data is there. We have. Now, considering this whole scenario, I talked about how this whole things are, boiling down to the requirement of achieving well-being. Now, well-being is not something that we'll achieve in overnight. It is something that we should add in our lifestyle, and major contributor at workplace, if we consider that well-being is a reservoir. The conflicting goals, too much of travel, unreasonable demands, and working with difficult people becomes a hole in that reservoir of well-being, which percolate most of the well-being energy from a person. So in Joygraphy, we have worked really hard with more than 2.5 years of research, and affiliated with it with more a lot of international bodies, and we have came up with certain solutions which I want to put in front of you with this video.
Is there any sound? I am unable to hear this.
Oh, the sound was there.
Sound was not audible actually.
Oh.
I suggest it's available on the handle, social media handle.
Yeah.
And there's a small guitar music that, but maybe Vishal, you want to quickly get onto
Yes.
the organizational tactics that can help with the topic.
Yes. So with this background, the issues that we felt and we have incorporated in geography. So these 6 areas which Avijit has already talked, and how now, because since we are talking about from individual perspective and the organizational perspective, there are certain tactics that organization should consider when it comes to dealing with the workplace well-being issues. The first thing that we thought is required. It's there is a research published by Harvard Business, and they have said that what we need in the current for the next century, the kind of managers, the kind of workforce we are looking for, they need to have basic two qualities, basic two characteristics, and these characteristics are compassion and resilience. So we need more leaders with compassion. We need more leaders with resilience. Now, what is compassion? What is resilience? Compassion, that the dictionary meaning that we know is, helping others, but compassion is far more than that. Compassion is not just helping others. It's about having that feeling of as if, as if this is happening with me, as if I'm experiencing it, as if this has already happened with me. So this as if feeling is very necessary when you are leading a team, when you are considering, when you are leading a group of people. Now it's not only about feeling emotions, it's not only about being unconditional, non-judgment. It's not, though they are important part of it, being empathize, being empathetic, being non-judgmental, and at the same time understanding the emotion of the person. Compassion is more about converting all these aspects into the action, converting all these aspects into the action. And that is why when we are considering a team of people in an organization, this team of people, they are looking for some example, some role model where they can follow, the person they can follow. And that is why in the organization, the compassion, it's something that is very important. And an important thing is, with compassion and resilience is the ability to bounce back, ability to stand in the face of problem, in the face of critical situation, and take things in hand and respond to the situation. The good thing about compassion and resilience is both these characteristics are something which we can learn, something which can be learned, and something which we can get training on. So from the organizational perspective, certain initiative to boost the compassion and resilience in the employees will do the will help to do their bit to ensure the well-being of the employees. Now, humor and experience is it's something that is given lot of importance in existential psychology, existential psychotherapy. Humor is basically in Viktor Frankl's Viktor Frankl is a known existential psychotherapist. In his word, soul is humor is medicine to your soul to save from life issues, to save yourself from life issues. So humor basically boost the energy in the person to face the issues they're having and experiences. Now this economy, that this era of economy is experiential economy. where people like to experience things. They just, I was talking with one of my client, and I came to know that from that child, that anything more than 4 statement become lecture for them, and they don't want lecture, they want more of an experience. That is why we need to have certain practices in the organization which will add a certain experiential value in the life of employee. And last point is policies and practices that we need to start in the organization. Now here, policies and practices means uh, something that you want to for that I would like to share this this quote by a famous economist, one of the Nobel Prize winner, Joseph Stiglitz. In his word, what you measure affects what you do. And if you don't measure the right thing, you don't do the right thing. And this is where geography comes in the picture. We do assess the issues that basically affecting the workplace well-being, and the intervention that can be provided to the organization, and the integration of these two parts will be very helpful. So there is a lot to share, but I would like to answer the questions which are there.
So thank you very much, Abhijit and Vishal, for such an insightful presentation. Actually, you covered a lot, from external versus internal factors of success, or intertwined nature of life, or the 6 fundamental areas which you mentioned, which is workplace, career, relationship, physical self, emotional self, and value systems. And more importantly, the take home, which is that well-being is no longer an optional but an essential subject in life now. And also the way you have explained the concept of well-being and psychological well-being, it's really commendable, and the kind of work which is done. So thank you very much for that session. Now we would be open to questions. I think Dr. Vishal, the questions are in chat box. If
Yes.
you can take some of them, if you want me to read, I can. Otherwise, you can also take it on
So
some day of yeah.
I would like to take the question from Shruti.
Yeah.
And Shruti has asked about the statement of well-being is functioning well, and yes, well-being is functioning well, and in right and healthy way to achieve some goal. Yes, functioning well, and it's right and healthy way. It's not for the society. It's not for the society. It's for yourself, and that is what gives you an sustainable and ultimate meaning to life. And you only have talked about meaningfulness in life from the work, because we spend half of our life in work. If it is not meaningful, we never find meaning in life. Rakesh Kumar has asked, do life and work is different? Um, do we, because in our culture we say that work is worship, and to differentiate life and work sometimes is not possible. The kind of era that we are living now, the definition of work has already changed. Unless you are following a work, work like you are composing a music and that is your work, then it is not different, then it is life and work. But if you have made some choices of work just because you want to, as I earlier said, you want to ensure that you should survive in the EMI cities, then it's become different. And work is no doubt it's an integral part of life, and that is why we need to find out way to enjoy it, way to find meaning from it.
But certainly work is not life.
It's not like, of course. And I think there is another question from Rakesh. Have you covered that part in your answer?
It is isn't when we separate work from life, then all issues start. No, I don't think so. Because like we have a relationship, we have a personal life, we have working life. So these are areas of life, and we need to learn to maintain the balance in these areas. We cannot say that we can remove this and we can have this, because something that it's an integral part of it. I don't think if you remove work, when we separate work from life, then all issues start. I'm not agree with this statement, because unless, yes, I understand from where you are coming, Rakesh. Somebody who has chosen work from their hobby, for them, the boundary of work and life are very thin, are very thin. But even for those people, if you go and see their personal life, still and you'll realize that yes, there has to be certain boundaries. And I feel there are other issues, not separating work from life.
So thank you very much, Vishal. And in this session, we have a very regular attendee in our sessions, our senior who has been blessing these sessions very regularly, Mr. Inderpalji. Inderpalji, would you like to share some
No,
thoughts?
I just wanted to congratulate both the speakers for very research-based and very thorough kind of exposition on the subject. I understand that they have done some work with police force, and I always felt that they are the most stressed individuals in our society.
Yes.
So what was the outcome of your working with the police force? Were their working conditions altered in some way? Working hours were shortened? That places of work were improved? I mean, what was the final outcome? Because I think we have a large police force. Maharashtra alone would have, I think Bombay has 50,000, Maharashtra would have another lakh or two. So 3 lakh people's life, as we read in the papers, have been quite miserable for decades. I understand there have been some changes made in the length of the working hours, weekly holiday and things like that. But has there been any substantial change because of your interventions?
My work was specifically focusing on uniformed women police officers, and since these were uniformed women police officers, and what kind of issues they are facing when they are working, especially long hours, was one of the major issues. Because I can share one example of a female constable. She was placed in front of one religious place. The duty was around almost more than 13 hours, and there was no washroom nearby. So imagine a female officer standing on a duty for 13 hours, and there was no washroom nearby. So they are suffering with a lot of health issues because of these kind of arrangements. Now they have made, because of these findings that we produce, a very senior police officer, Meera Borwankar ma'am, she headed this research, and I was assisting her for this. And we given certain feedback to government of Maharashtra, and Center for Police Research, which is located in Pune. They accepted it and produced in front of the government, and then there are a lot of changes made, especially in duty hours, especially providing the reliever, or arranging the mobile washrooms near the bandobast areas. So these kind of changes were done because of the report.
But working hours are still very long, no? I mean, I think they work very long hours.
They are still very, very long hours, and because the issue is, we don't have that. We need huge police force to take care of this kind of population. The kind of population we have, the number of police we have, they are still very basic number we have.
But if I can add very quickly, so even there are certain thoughts in the police force. I don't want to divulge much of the details about the kind of discussion that we're having with some of the people, including one retired commissioner, that on one hand, as Vishal spoke about, the police force, this number of people required is anyway not only with police force, it is with judiciary, it is general with doctors. In the pandemic, we felt that, with the debatable Ayurvedic doctors, can they be allowed to do surgeries? Now, on the external side, what they are trying to do, and the discussion is currently on, is that they are identifying certain pockets every police station of vulnerable population that is likely to commit certain crime, who are already disturbed, and what kind of well-being initiatives, interventions can be provided to them, to decrease their vulnerability in participation of crime. And that is probably more, one of the prominent things that could also be done from the police force. These are a lot of times these sound very great in terms, between on a webinar. In reality, these things take really a lot of people to come together to bring it into a real happening. So yes, something that is on our wish list along with them, hoping that they give us an opportunity to work on.
Shruti has,
yes.
If I have a minute, Shruti has asked me a question. When someone attach their sense of worth with their work, the retired state can be difficult to accept. How does maintain the well-being? Shruti, it's not only for retired people, people who are currently working, people who are going through their mid-career crisis. This is happening with lot of people, that they attach their sense of worth with their work, and when they are out of their work, they feel worthless. Here, the transition from one job to other, or from transition from being working to the retired state, they required a lot of support and help, which can be provided with the intervention that we have developed in the assessment and intervention that we have developed in Joygraphy. But your observation is very correct, and it's not only for the retirement, it's for everyone who are very genuine with their work and want to, when they shift it, it's like, it's like a breakup sort of feeling, where it's always painful.
So I think we are also coming to the end of the session. Kavitaji, you would like to say a few words?
Yes. Thank you, Abhijit and Vishal. And the very basic foundation of your work that you have showcased today for our members of BMA. I was also curious that if you can show the instrument that you have created. Many of them have taken the test that you have already mentioned, but then that analysis I would have been more interested in, because I myself have taken that test and I found it very, very interesting, and it is going into deep to understand the mental level. Nonetheless, those who have done may have received their reports, which your system generally generates. So they must have done it. Also, this is very useful for the organizations, as we can try and see the fitment, we can try and see the reasons for performance, non-performance. We can also see whether it is suitable or not suitable, and many such kind of extension of your work will be possible for the organizations to take up. For young entrepreneurs, students, and those who are starting their career at this point in time, they will be able to understand the state of mind, and then they can take coaching, mentorship from the right people, and they themselves can come up with a very different perspective about themselves when they undertake your test that you have displayed. And I think it is free of cost with some part of it, I think. Isn't it? It is available
Yes.
on your site.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I will encourage all those who have attended this webinar to also go through the Joygraphy, and they will give you insight about themselves. I think this has given us an opportunity to understand it's not only about happiness. People are talking about happiness index, and the whole world is going gaga over it, but it's about well-being, and not only the superficial happiness which is materialistic or which is very subjective, as you have very rightly said. I am sure that this interaction for almost over an hour has given us insight about the philosophical foundation and the basis that you have created for creating this. And the philosophy of Indian philosophy also talks about the same thing. Go within, try and see what you have inside. That will give you insights, and those insights will be as useful as you get it from the environment outside. Thank you, Abhijit, and thank you, Vishal, for taking time out and showcasing this new venture that you have created and which is available for the organizations and individuals for making use of. I'm sure with these 70 people, as you mentioned, who have taken, and almost 65 people were present today in this webinar, I am sure you have seen the YouTube channel of Bombay Management Association. In 1 or 2 days, this will also be made available to the members of BMA. They can take advantage of this work that you have taken. I will request all of the participants to keep their videos on for some time so that we can have the memories of this particular event. And thank you, Rajesh ji. Thank you.
Thank you for all the participants for attending this session. And just to remind that on 29th we will be celebrating Indian Managers series, and in this time we are celebrating Mr. F.C. Kohli, who was the ex-president of I think he was the first president of Bombay Management Association. So we are paying the tribute to the Indian managers through these sessions. We will request all to attend these sessions. And thank you very much for being here.
Ma'am, since you asked this question of how to go about interpretation of the report and the insights of the report, do you want us to spend 5 minutes with a sample report, and or maybe even those who have taken already the assessment on how to understand their own report? There are aspects of, we had offered personal, a part of the personal well-being called emotional well-being. And there were 3 dimensions that we deal in emotional well-being in terms of how do you go about managing your emotional regulation, your empathy, and overall aspects of that. So maybe, do you want us to spend about next
Yes,
3 to 4
if you
minutes?
can do it in 5 minutes, we have already overlooked the time, but we would like to go through it. If you can show us what will be the type of report that gets generated.
Okay, great. So Vishal, can you just display one sample report and give a quick idea from the presentation of what does, if somebody is a high or a low, mean to themselves?
Sure. So I'll share the presentation. It was there in the presentation. So in the workplace well-being, in the test that we have taken, the emotional well-being basically help us understand. I guess once
there is a emotional regulation that perhaps we need to do within ourselves at the moment. So maybe, fine.
Yes.
That's very natural. Vishal,
so
can you
basically
do this with
it
the help
helps.
of a report? Just quickly cover it with the help of report.
Someone is
somebody Okay. Lakshmi, can you mute everybody? Yes, that's okay. I think that's okay. Sorry.
From the Vishal, from the email.
Yeah, I'm opening it. Because that report is on the personal well-being report. Abhijit, I'll be able to explain with the PPTs only.
Okay.
So this.
You want me to share? You want me to share on the screen?
Yes, please, if you can.
Okay, just give me. You can start. You can start. I'll just quickly.
Emotional well-being is basically there are 5 areas of emotional well-being that we have considered here. In emotional well-being, we have assessed people on their how well they are when it comes to expressing their emotions, understanding their emotions, regulating the emotions, and being empathetic towards other, and being mindful when it comes to emotion. So, Abhijit, can you scroll down on emotional well-being? So, next page, please. Go on emotional well-being in the section. Next, please. Next page. Next page. Emotional well-being. Yes. So in the emotional well-being section, you get this kind of report. If you go online and if you take a free emotional well-being assessment, you will get this report where a person who is high on emotional well-being, they are more attentive to their own emotion, they are aware of their own emotion, and at the same time, they are aware of emotions of others. Sometimes most of the communication issues, most of the emotions issues arises from not able to understand the appropriate emotion, sometime of our own and sometime of others. At the same time, there are 5 elements which I was explaining. The emotional experience, here the experiences that we are getting in different situations. In psychologically, every emotion had certain thinking aspect to it. If that thinking aspect is wrong, you may end up labeling that emotion with a wrong, with some other way, and that may create difficulty in communication and in the personal relation. In similar way, expression of the emotion. When you score low on emotional expression, then sometimes you make a mistake while expressing the emotion in an inappropriate way. When you are high on it, you understand the situation and how you should express the emotion. When it comes to managing the emotion, especially the regulatory part of emotion. Emotion is something which is important for our survival. It's not like negative emotions are not good. Negative emotions also help to perform. But then we need to learn to regulate those emotions when it comes to when we get a negative experience, because a lot of success stories are there out of negative emotions. The only difference, people commit crime out of negative emotion or create problems out of negative emotion, is they cannot regulate it, they cannot manage it. Empathy is a skill, emotion that the emotional well-being aspect that we have included in this is, as I earlier explained, it's an as if condition. You cannot sympathize. When you sympathize with people, they feel that you are you are being dramatic with them. Empathy is feeling that pain that somebody is going through, and if you have that, if you really want to win others, there is a key to win others is to being empathized with them. That is the only way. Last part which is there in the mindfulness, being attentive. Mindfulness is a concept which given by Gautam Buddha almost 2,700 years back. And he said, not being mindful is the reason of all the pain, all the sorrow. Being attentive, being aware of one's emotions and others' emotion makes you mindful. And if you are mindful, then everything is, you'll be able to handle all the situations in your life. So mindfulness is also included in the emotional well-being. So this scale is available. This assessment is available online, where you can go and you can take the test, download the report. And if you need any further assistance, we are available there. You can mail us on info@joygraphy.com, where all such issues and more assistance can be provided. And I would like to thank organizer and the Bombay Management Association for giving this opportunity and even allowing us for extra time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. And we can meet on 29th. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.